Colorado, the man, not the place. It's main event time here at the Wrestle Factory. Our first time encounter between Dan Barry and the #1 ranked wrestler in Beyond Wrestling, Drew Gulak. Of course, Dan Barry, a very popular competitor, especially since his performance at American Rana. But he also has a very storied career here in Beyond Wrestling. He made his debut at the Gospel of the Boards taping, playing spoiler to Corvus Fear, who with one more victory would have become the #1 ranked wrestler in Beyond Wrestling. So an extremely impressive debut. Fast forward 1 year later, the Off the Grid live event Beyond Wrestling's debut in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, where he went one-on-one with Johnny Cockstrong, the #1 ranked wrestler at the time, and Dan Barry was able to defeat him. But I've got to say, between all three of the competitors, Corvus, Cockstrong, and Gulak, without question, has the most technical acumen of the bunch. Let's see how Dan Barry will fare against that. For so long, we saw Dan Barry wearing that shirt that said remarkably average. I think that was just to throw his opponents off. This guy can do it all. Skilled on the mat, an exceptional high flyer, and a student of the game. I mean, just the knowledge alone that he has passed along to wrestlers like Zack Ryder, Trent Beretta, Kurt Hawkins. I mean, those guys competing in the WWE. It's good to have Dan Barry here in Beyond Wrestling. He's able to show off his skill set against Drew Gulak, the top of the food chain, the king of the mountain, whatever you want to call him. Gulak using those ropes, trying to get more leverage. By doing so, able to back his larger opponent into the corner. It's the little techniques like that Gulak understands, Gulak knows how to implement, that so many on the scene just aren't even aware of. That's why Gulak has had an incredible 2013 as he looks forward into 2014. Dan Barry's got that wrist lock applied. Gulak really struggling to find an escape right here. Rudimentary hold. But again, it's the way that Dan Barry has it applied that's made it difficult for Gulak to find a counter. Now he's wrestled Gulak down to the mat, trying to apply pressure to the shoulder as well as the wrist. Now bending at the elbow. Gulak instinctually trying to go to the back of the head. Dan Barry, he's not going to be able to take him down with snapmare. He's able to roll into position to get the separation that he needed. Not sure how much damage was done to the arm of Drew Gulak. You see him trying to stretch it out. And Dan Barry allowing Gulak to get back up to his feet. These two are going to square off once again. This time Gulak picking away at the arms. A bit of unusual hold. As Gulak is now struggling for leverage behind his opponent. I think Barry's trying to get underneath Gulak. This right here, more of a position of dominance than doing any sort of damage. As soon as Barry was able to find an escape, Gulak went right to that front face lock. Drew Gulak, the current Combat Zone Wrestling World Champion. In a situation right here where he really gets to demonstrate that technical acumen. Remember, Gulak's been wrestling for close to a decade, a graduate of both Jakara Wrestling School and the CZW Academy. So the training that he's had from the likes of DJ Hyde, Mike Quackenbush, Chris Hero, I mean, so many different styles, and the way that he's able to bring it all together. 2013, he's certainly taken his conditioning a lot more seriously. Packing on the muscle certainly adds with the strength, especially when you're in there against larger opponents. It never hurt to be stronger and stronger. Dan Barry without Bill Carr at his side. Of course, Team Tremendous. Again, that breakout performance at American Rana, stealing the show. And when you have wrestlers the likes of Colt Cabana, Masada, Johnny Gargano, Eddie Edwards, Kevin Steen, to steal the show is a mighty impressive feat. And that's exactly what Team Tremendous did. and American Rano. But that's not intended to take anything away from Dan Barry as a singles competitor. As we see right there, he's able to find a counter for Drew Gulak's counter. And again, going to a hold. He's pulling away now, this time at the right arm and shoulder. Gulak back up to his feet. Perhaps going to be looking to send Dan Barry overhead with the hip toss, one of Dan Barry's signatures. The way that Dan Barry has that arm held, doesn't look like Gulak has the leverage he needs to take Barry over. Now Dan Barry playing the corning hold. What a counter from Gulak! But just like that, Barry's got the hold applied. Gulak was able to go behind his opponent. Barry still able to keep the hold on. And as Gulak was looking for separation again, Barry rolls through. That corning hold really bends the elbow in an extremely painful, unnatural position. Again, Gulak trying to get behind his opponent. This time, taking him down with that snap suplex. Ugly but effective. As Gulak continues to favor that arm. Now Dan Barry telling the official to back up Gulak. And Gulak obliging. Honestly, if Gulak wanted to, he could have charged in right there and put the boots to Dan Barry. But Dan Barry afforded the opportunity for Gulak to get up. And Barry was in an advantageous position in the starting moments of this contest. So, a bit of sportsmanship we're seeing. And what an opportunity for Dan Barry to test himself against the best in Beyond Wrestling. You know, it's not too often that wrestlers come along that are as technically gifted as Drew Gulak. Right here, he's got that cravat applied, applying pressure to the jaw. Dan Barry trying to find a counter, trying to use his left arm to break the hold. Not strong enough. Not only the pressure applied to the neck, the jaw, but bending him at the neck too. Cravat, a very dangerous hold. One that Chris Hero obviously utilized to his advantage for a number of years. Well, who do you think passed that technique down to Drew Gulak? Very successful in finding a counter. He's looking to strike the left arm of Drew Gulak. I think Gulak was able to get out of the way.
You watch his fingers going out?
Barry and Gulak circling once again. This time it looks like Gulak is looking to lace knuckles. Barry obliges. Just like that, able to bring Gulak down to his knees. Barry's holding him in position. Gulak fight back up to a vertical base. Gulak does have a couple inches on Dan Barry. I think as soon as Barry realized that, got underneath Gulak to send him overhead. Now trying to break the bridge. Trying to kick away at the quadriceps. Gulak able to maintain that bridge, the neck and leg strength. Barry's starting to get frustrated, just stomp Gulak down to the mat. This is the first big opening that Barry can capitalize on. He was able to move the leg out of position to go right back to that left arm. Got the headlock applied, just got the arm trapped. It's going to be making it more difficult. Making it more difficult for Gulak to escape this hold. Not impossible. Gulak having to be concerned about being pinned from this position too while he's thinking about a counter. Didn't even realize that his shoulder was pinned to the mat. Again, Gulak in danger of being pinned. Gulak not rushing into anything here. And just like that, he kicks out, uses his momentum to wrap his legs around his opponent's head. And now we see Barry in a very similar position. Although Gulak, instead of applying pressure with his arms, applying pressure around the head with the legs. We saw that shot to the midsection, and Barry responds with one of his own. Back to square one, another stalemate. We're starting to see the intensity, the physicality picking up in this contest. Gulak quick to apply that side headlock. Dan Barry trying to shoot him off the ropes, but to no avail. Pulling away at the face. Got to be careful, risking disqualification. It is illegal to fishhook your opponent. I think Dan Barry knows that, but anything he can do to find a counter at this point.
He's got me. He's got me.
Well, Drew Gulak was looking for a clean break. Dan Barry snapping him down to the mat. Now he's got that chin lock applied. Making Gulak carry his weight. Gulak trying to turn over. Barry, the way that he was able to wrap that left leg around Gulak, trying to grapevine it. Going to limit it. Going to be limiting some of the mobility of Gulak. And just like that, and a variation of the ab stretch. But the positioning not to the favor of Dan Barry. Gulak was able to get his hands on the rope to break the hold before Barry could do too much damage. Gulak is a very cerebral competitor. I think if you take a look at this match on paper, you'd think that Dan Barry is outclassed. But honestly, that has not been the case. I think that Dan Barry has set out to accomplish what he wanted to coming into this match, showing that he can go toe-to-toe with Drew Gulak. He hasn't beaten yet. Gulak taking a couple steps back, able to get that inside cradle. Now the referee checking the positioning. Back and forth a couple times. And Dan Barry just thrown to the floor. That'll certainly break up his momentum. Landing hard on that concrete. No protective mats. Obviously, this is a training facility. Not designed for competitors to be wrestling, but rather to be learning how to wrestle. Gulak back up to his feet. Dan Barry just starting to stir. To a 7 count. Before Barry can even get back in the ring, Drew Gulak just blasts him with that knee. Sending him flying off the apron once again. And once again, Dan Barry spilling hard on the floor.
He's wearing a hat.
Bit of a disrespectful sign from Drew Gulak. Putting on one of the other wrestlers' hats. Showboating, hot dog, and call it what you will. Drew Gulak is confident and he is in control. Other wrestlers on ringside coming to life, showing their support for Dan Barry. And this time, Dan Barry's out of the way as Gulak came charging in. Caught him with a shot to the face. Now fighting on the floor. And a backdrop suplex. The hardest part of the ring. Nothing but wood and steel. Dan Barry could have done more damage on the floor, instead seizing the opportunity, sending Gulak back into the ring, and a drop kick to the side of the head. With the lateral press the leg hook, Gulak out before even the 1 count. An emphatic statement to Dan Barry. And now this time Dan Barry with the arm trapped, grabs a hold of the second one, and we see another variation of the seated abdominal stretch. This one is much more difficult to counter. Gulak is feeling the pain right here. Trying to use his right leg to bring himself back up to a vertical base. Successful in doing so, give him credit. That is a very difficult hold to find a counter for. Barry kicking away at the midsection of Gulak. Just sent him across the ring. Gulak had a reversal for the Irish whip. Barry got his foot up. Oh, just driving the knee across the chest. Still only good for a 2 count. Now we're starting to see Gulak struggle here. Before he was kicking out as soon as the pin was applied. That time it took him 2 seconds to get out of the hold. Now you see him in the corner retreating. And Barry, Gulak by the head. He's gonna be looking for a snap suplex. Gulak able to find a counter. That O'Connor roll takes him over. Barry stacked up. Pulls him right into the Gulak. This is the hold that he has defeated dozens of opponents with. Here at Beyond Wrestling, when Drew Gulak first debuted, he really struggled. Lost his first few matches, but I think as soon as he became acclimated with the setting, this unprecedented environment, you have to worry not only about defeating your opponent, but impressing your peers. As soon as that all came together for Gulak, almost every single person that he has beaten in Beyond Wrestling has been with this hold. I can't believe, honestly, that Barry hasn't tapped out yet. And now Dan Barry, a reversal of the hold, and just drives Drew Gulak skull first down to the canvas with that inverted DDT. Shooting the half Nelson, got the lateral press and the leg hooked. But I think he might have taken a little bit too much time going to that pin. Oh, just a shot to the chest. And now a forearm to the jaw. Well, we haven't even seen Dan Barry really go for any of his signature maneuvers so far in this contest. Hasn't been afforded the opportunity. Comes charged in, Gulak gets that boot up. Got him hooked for a tornado DDT, and he nails it. Dan Barry driven right in the top of his skull. Gulak not nearly enough with that cover, just an arm draped across the chest. You almost got to wonder, perhaps he was able to get more of his body's weight and able to hook a leg. I mean, that could have been it, honestly. Dan Barry's not really stirring right here. Oh, and Gulak launching himself off the middle rope, coming down with a boot to the guts, and just driving that elbow. This time, with the leg hooked, still only a 2 count. I think the face of Drew Gulak says it all. And again, take a look at the face of Dan Barry. He's out of it. Gulak has spent, though, these guys have been going at it for the better part of 20 minutes. That is a long period of time to be not only withstanding, but even dishing out punishment. Dan Barry with a shot to the head, and Gulak's down. Instead of going for the pin, he's got those legs hooked up. And again, Gulak in danger of being pinned. Gulak doing everything he can to try and find a counter. Again, in danger of being pinned. Hold right here doing some serious damage to the left leg of Drew Gulak. Not only at the ankle, but at the knee, pulling it in an unnatural direction. Gulak finally able to get to the ropes. Dan Barry staying on the attack. Trying to take Gulak over the German suplex. I'm surprised Gulak's able to hold on, especially with the damage just done to the legs. Gulak able to find a counter. Never a moment of separation from Gulak. Even after that suplex, still holding on. Now with that side headlock applied, I think we're seeing the closing moments of this matchup. Dan Barry does not have much gas left in the tank. Gulak seamlessly transitioning into another hold, using his opponent's momentum against him. And this time with that crossface applied, this is one of those dangerous holds in pro wrestling. Doing damage not only to the neck by applying pressure, bending the head, but it's that point of contact. Makes it so difficult to breathe. You've got your opponent's knuckles across the bridge of your nose. It's so hard to take in that breath. You need oxygen to be able to breathe. You need to breathe to be able to fight. Sometimes you've got that intangible element, the support of the other wrestlers on the outside of the ring. Never forget just how important that is. Barry's really struggling right here. Gulak forced to give up the hold. He's still got that headlock applied. Oh! That was a bad angle for Gulak to come down at. Not only the impact on his head, behind his shoulders too. And look at this, Gulak not only kicking out, but with the counter with that crucifix. Dan Barry on spaghetti legs. The official checking on him. Oh! Both men with the same idea at the same time. Now we see the frog splash from Gulak. Barry kicks out. And Gulak going right into the Gulak. Got the legs wrapped around the waist. And Dan Barry forced to give it up. Very hard-fought match between both of these competitors. Great back and forth action, but it's the Gulak, Drew Gulak's signature, which leads him to the victory. Really tell it in the concluding moments of this contest. Dan Barry had just taken one too many shots, just way too worn down. And Gulak able to weather the storm, tough it out, showing why he is the #1 ranked wrestler here at Beyond Wrestling. Got the official checking on him as well. But I still gotta say, I mean, even in defeat, I think Dan Barry did exactly what he had hoped to accomplish today in this contest, showing that he can go toe-to-toe with Drew Gulak, really testing his mat wrestling ability against one of the very best in the entire world. You know, you see Dan Barry and Bill Carr, the detective getup, looking to see who's behind that illegal denim ring. You can't forget that Dan Barry is one of the very best wrestlers on the Beyond Wrestling roster as well. But right there, you see the man having his hand raised in victory. Numero uno, Drew Gulak.